In general, I feel like in the past, it was almost like we had different ideas and we were very stubborn about our own idea, which means like we didn't ever try the other, like it's kind of like we didn't try each other's ideas. So like now we're kind of at a point where we are, listening to other people's feedback and then we'll actually, try it out.
This is Zento from Esports Heaven, and I have here with me Santorin from Team Liquid. A really close game against Cloud9. What a banger and what a competitive game. Talk me through maybe the Olaf pick, because we know that that is signature Blabber pick. Did you guys really go into this draft with that prioritized, or like just give me your thoughts on that, I guess?
Oh, I mean, we did nothing to do with the Blabber Olaf because it's also rework champion. He played it yesterday, and it definitely showed that he's still learning the new champion because it's very different to what it was before. The only reason why I picked Olaf is because Reap was a really really good Olaf, and he really likes when he sees like an angle for like a certain pick, like he really likes to bring it out, and from scrimming and just watching him play Olaf, he's really really good at this champion. So that was kind of like where it came from.
Okay. So walk me through the whole stalemate at Elder Dragon, because we were all just watching this on the broadcast, and it was like a tit for tat. You guys, you had the Olaf going to bot lane to clear the wave, and then Azir was pushing in mid lane, and no one was really like wanting to do anything.
Yeah.
But I did notice that you guys didn't have some flashes up or whatnot. So I don't know if that was the reason. Like, can you just give me a heads up on what was going on?
Yeah, so it kind of felt like we couldn't really stop the Elder because it felt like we're slowly getting chunked. Also, the other kind of story to the why it became like this is because like both teams feel scared about engaging, because if you're going in, I think the other team will probably win. I think C9 could have. I think C9 wasn't in a better spot though, because they have a Kalista that has Ren stack, so he could literally just keep hitting the Elder, and he doesn't actually take damage either. So I think that was something they could do. They could also just have one of their players just keep pushing mid, this kind of stuff. So it kind of felt like it was very hard for us because there was not really a clear way of how we're gonna do anything, because we can't really just run at them because they have Renata and Nasir. Hard to get a flank because like Gwen is kind of blocking us, so it just became a stalemate. And
Yeah.
I feel like it's more like C9 not making the I feel like they could have played slightly different, and it would be like a lot harder for us.
So also Cloud9 did sneak a Baron this game. Were you guys expecting that? Like what? Because I mean, you guys got chunked out beforehand, so I don't know if it was just a concede or what.
We're definitely thinking about it, and we're kind of like they can probably do Baron, and it's like I think we recognize this slightly too late that they just instantly do it. Like we're thinking like okay, maybe in like 5 seconds they'll like try to do it, and I didn't have any. I believe I had no ward slips, so I couldn't even like check the Baron, and it's kind of like I'm not. I can't even like really walk river, and like so it just became like really really awkward, and yeah, they snuck a Baron under our noses, which always feels really bad because I mean they have a Seer Kalista. It's pretty even a Gwen. It's pretty obvious that this team does objectives very very quickly. So it was definitely like a blunder on our end.
So talk to me about pressure inside Team Liquid, because the very beginning of the year, this is a super team. You guys are all superstar names. And the entire community certainly has a large pressure to see Team Liquid do very well. But how is it internally? Because in there was a little prelude of Hans Sama talking about the pressure that he felt on this team and how he wasn't performing like his past self, especially from Europe. So how is it like in terms of the pressure? Do you guys actually feel that? Is it more than usual, or?
I think if you're on a top team that is expected to win, there's always going to be pressure. The fans kind of just expect you to win, and it kind of this splits that out with us dominating first week. So we put really really high expectations.
Yeah.
And then because I think since then we actually won one every single week, and when expectations are super high and we went 3-0 very it was very stompy games. It's kind of a wash. The expectations just grow too high almost. None of this is like, I still think we're playing a lot worse than we should, don't get me wrong, but I was thinking the expectations of the team, we're not going to like stomp every single game. Like it's a competitive league and other teams are also competitive and they're also good teams.
Sure.
But I will say I do feel like we've been underperforming. We're not playing as well as we should. And that's obviously something that we're trying to tackle and double down on because it doesn't feel good going 1-1 every single week. I mean, there's not, like in our head, that shouldn't be, I guess, 4 or 5 teams that can consistently beat, not consistently, but can beat us. Like we want to, it's going to be like when we play EG, like it should go like, head and head. Like maybe they win one game, maybe we win another one. But instead we're losing to a lot of teams that we shouldn't have. And, that's kind of where I feel like, we are underperforming and we're not living up to expectations.
So previously, Whippo had went on stage with an interview talking about how you guys are struggling with maybe finding an identity and a playstyle identity with the team. And this was a couple weeks back now, so I just want to check in with that because you guys were saying something along the lines of that maybe the identity that you should play around is the bot lane, with Core JJ being a very stable player and Han Sama being, very carry-esque. Is this something that you guys are playing more into, or?
I think we definitely had throughout the split, like, not an identity crisis, but, we're trying to figure out what fits us best. Same in spring, like we're trying a lot of different things and some of it worked out, some didn't. And then, there was a couple of weeks where we just heavily underperformed to the point where, when you play like that, you're kind of like trying to figure out if this is the right way to go about it because, obviously we're making a lot of stupid mistakes. I think our bot lane is really, really strong, but that being said, I still think we can play through other lanes. When I see our team, it's like, Weepo is very good at playing his 1v1s. I think, he's really good at engaging in this kind of stuff, and like that's kind of like his playstyle. And Bjerg is like one of those players, he can be flashy at times, and kind of he can demand a lot of resources too, because like he's playing like LeBlanc, Ari, these kind of champions. So I think it just comes down to like the draft. Obviously, we have Hans on Draven or Kalista, something like that. He's going to take over the game. So I think we're slowly finding an identity, but at the same time, you still have to be somewhat flexible because you can't play the same style every single game. And
Sure.
Because there's ways they can ban certain champions or whatever it might be. But I think we're getting there, which feels good. But on the other hand, we're still going 1-1 every week, which feels really bad. So there's still a lot of room for improvement.
So talk to me about criticism within a team like Team Liquid, because when you look at it from the outset, all these players are really good. So all these players kind of know what to do, what their role is, and what they should be doing. But at the same time, when you get criticism from, someone, a legendary player like Bjergsen or someone like Core JJ, maybe it might get into your head of like, oh, maybe I should really listen to this guy. He has some good points, and you don't try and combat his ideas. So like you can get into this precarious position to where maybe you're listening more to your teammates rather than giving your own opinion. Like how does criticism function in Team Liquid?
Yes, I think this is one of the big parts of Team Liquid that we had to kind of figure out over time, because we have a lot of big voices. It's not just Bjerg and Core, like everyone kind of, I think Hans is probably the one with, actually, at times he has really strong opinions as well, but in general, I feel like in the past, it was almost like we had different ideas and we were very stubborn about our own idea, which means like we didn't ever try the other, like it's kind of like we didn't try each other's ideas, so like now we're kind of at a point where we are listening to other people's feedback, and then we'll actually, try it out and then make the decision. Because beforehand, a lot of time we'd be like two people disagreeing, not trying either of the calls, and it's kind of like, well, we got to do something, right? So I think we've come to a point where like it's easier to give criticism to each other, and people are also like more open to criticism in general, and I feel like that has helped us as a team. There's still, specifically in team fighting, there's a lot of stuff to work on, and that's something we've been putting extra attention to lately. And I think there were moments this game where I could definitely feel that because of we putting more attention to it, we've been setting up better for like the fight. But there's still some execution errors that I mean, it's not gonna like just happen overnight. Like we need weeks to make sure that we're actually like prepared and play team fights the way we should. Because this game, clearly, we could also easily have won this game.
So finally, I want to get your thoughts on maybe a trap that I think a lot of super teams can fall into, which is assuming that the other players know about some basic things and some basic principles about the game. I think maybe some teams could, or I don't know, you tell me, of getting caught talking about the abstract advanced things when you haven't maybe rehashed the basics all together again, and maybe you end up being a less cohesive unit because of that. Talk to me about getting into, I guess, the groove of things and studying the basics together. Is this something that Team Liquid has to discuss? Do you guys ever talk about the basics, or is it just mostly like advanced abstract theories about the game?
I think that was actually something, it's a good point, because there's definitely throughout this year that, you know, we all come from very successful teams and we've all seen our former teams do really well at certain things. So we kind of have our own idea of how a good team plays, and we'd always go to like, this is the, you know, the optimal play, which, yeah, it might be the optimal play, but we also got to make a play together and everyone has to see that play. So like we did have to like go back to the fundamentals of the game and kind of get on the same page as something we can all agree on and then go from there, because that's definitely something that had hurt us throughout the year, because, you know, we all have very creative ways of how you want to play a certain like retake, or how you want to get vision control, whatever it might be, and a lot of the time it's not the same it's not the same view, because some teams play it very, very fast, some teams play it more slow, some good, like there's so many things to the game, and we definitely fall into that trap at times, and it's still a trap that we sometimes do fall into, but we're actively paying attention to it now, so we're trying to make sure it doesn't happen as much, and we're kind of trying to take a step back and look at the fundamentals a little more, because there's definitely a lot of times throughout last split and also this split where, you know, we're not doing the fundamentals probably either, so you know, sometimes we just got to make sure that, you know, start at the step 1 and then keep moving, instead of being like, okay, we go step 5, step 10, then step 2, you know, like we got be on the same page about it.
So that reminded me of something with you in particular, and I've always wanted to ask you about this, which is that you do very awkward jungle pathings, and that's a compliment, but and you just do the most weird things. Like what stuck out to me before, way back when you were on FlyQuest, you did a level 2 gank. You went from red buff to top lane, I think, on Trundle. And so with that said, what's your philosophy on jungling? I feel like you try and do unorthodox things.
Yeah, so I feel like jungle there's so much you can do as a jungler, and there's certain strategies you can do, you know, there's certain wards you can put level 1 so you can see if they ward, and it also comes down to like lane matchups. Like sometimes matchups are really volatile, sometimes people are very easy to gank, sometimes it seems like if I gank this guy, the game is over for him, like it's very hard to come back in that matchup, and you know, loading into the game, first I try to like ask my lane, like, how's these matchups, you know, and like who is pushing, who's doing what, these different things, and then going from there, then you kind of, I try to make a game plan where I can be impactful while not wasting too much time. So it's kind of like, a lot of time you'll see me level 2 gank, but it's a very quick gank, and it's like usually very successful, because I won't just go for a gank that makes no sense and like can potentially blow up my game. It kind of has to be like, there has to be a bigger purpose than me just being like, you know, I just feel like going top here. It's kind of like, you know, so I try to be very creative, because I feel like not the only way you can be impactful as a jungler, but in the early game, the best way to be impactful is like doing something unexpected. And I think that's also, you see a lot of different junglers do a lot of very inefficient pathings, like even to the point where it's like, damn, if this gank doesn't work out, dude, he's in the really best spot in the game. But it'll work, because like a lot of times they won't be thinking about that path. There's also times where I see one of my laners die to a very creative path. I'm like, dude, I don't blame you. You know, like that's just really creative by him. And like this, you know, I don't expect you to dodge that gank, because it's like really creative pathing or whatever. And those are like the kind of styles I also try to go for, like the things that people just wouldn't think of.
Interesting. The mind of Santorin. That's good. That's good. All right. Well, thank you very much for the interview. This has been Azento from Esports Heaven and Santorin from Team Liquid.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.